Hunt 'em Big with Steve Bartylla. Brought to you by
we have had it just cemented into our brains that public ground, just, I'm telling you, it's just so pounded. There isn't a fawn that is able to survive even a single year on that property. It's dangerous. We're all going to get shot out there. I mean, there's so many reasons it's not even funny. Well, let me tell you a little secret. When I first got into this stuff, I had a bunch of short people running around at home and a wife. And I had bills to pay. So I had to take just about every type of work I could. And I don't particularly enjoy, never have, doing big buck profiles for magazines. There's a couple things that really surprised me about that. Doing all those art, I probably did 100 of them over the years. And here's a couple things that really surprised me. One, just shy of half the hunters that I was doing these profiles on their bucks, I'm promising you every viewer is just as good or better of a hunter than they are. I mean, I'm not insulting them in any way, but they were kids. They were first-time hunters. And the other part of why, before I get to the conclusion here, the overwhelming majority of people that were in that category that killed absolute stupidly big slobs, they killed them on public land or truly pummeled private land. There's a whole way more truly mature slobbish bucks on heavily pressured ground than we've been led to believe. But here's the catch, and here's what else that I eventually figured out. Why? Why are all these kids and first-time hunters killing these slobs on the public ground while it's the great hunters that are killing them on the private ground? Those 2, 3, 4,000 acre pieces that are managed so beautifully, that makes sense. But why isn't it the great hunters that are shooting them on the public ground? Because if you're going to hunt like a great hunter on heavily pressured ground, you ain't going to see squat. A buck does not get to be mature enough to sport ridiculously large racks if they're doing what we believe they're supposed to on that public ground. The way you find, another way to find untapped potential on public ground is to hunt completely differently than everybody else. Because if you're going to hunt like them, you're going to get the exact same results, and their results aren't dragging 190-inch bucks out of the woods. Their results typically aren't dragging 140-inch bucks out of the woods. Heck, they're typically not dragging 120-inch bucks out of the woods. You want to find those bucks? You find those spots where no one else is, because it doesn't make a lick of sense, or it's too darn tough to get there. But today we're talking about the areas that don't make a lick of sense. Use your head. Think this through analytically. If that buck is doing what he is supposed to on this ground with all those hunters, how in the world does he survive to 4.5, 5.5, 6.5 years of age? He don't. He's dead at 1.5 or 2.5. Rattling antlers, calls, all that stuff, leave those. When you're hunting heavily pressured ground, leave the gadgets at home. Find those areas where no one is, where these bucks aren't supposed to be, but yet you find their sign there. That's where you go, and you do nothing to draw any attention to yourself whatsoever. That's how you find untapped potential on public ground.
Final thoughts, brought to you by Huntworth.
Those articles were so incredibly impactful on my development as a hunter, to be brutally honest with you. They are what opened up my eyes to the fact that you want to kill slobs on heavily hunted grounds? You sure can, but if you hunt like everybody else, you ain't gonna do it. Okay? These animals are a different species. You leave all those gadgets at home. I can go ahead and get away with murder on the utopias that I hunt. I could take 2 arrows and click them together and I may be able to rattle in a deer. Sincerely, I'm not You do any of that junk though on these animals that have been so pressured, and you are literally screaming at them, go the other way, because you're not the first, you're not the second, you're not the third, and I promise you, you're not even the 25th rattling or calling sequence that 4.5-year-old has heard in his lifetime. If he was interested in coming into it, he died as a 1.5 years old, maybe 2.5 if he was lucky. Laser focus on doing things differently than everyone else when it comes to pressured ground. Realize these whitetails do not reach maturity on ground like this by doing what they're supposed to. The reason so many of those kids ended up with those is because they had jerk dads who didn't want to put them in the good spot, and we'll just stick little Timmy over there. Well, guess what? Little Timmy's sitting in a picture like this, grinning ear to ear, while his less than perfect father is kicking himself. Laser in on what's important, and you can find way more untapped potential on heavily pressured grounds than we've ever been led to believe.